Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Wise Guys. Monday is the best day of the week because it gets us back together. Wise Guys is the largest BYU sports live stream show in the whole world, presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. Our new podcast will be out tomorrow, wherever you get your podcast. Dave McCann and Brian Logan in for Blaine tonight. What's up? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Our live stream's already hopping. California, Oregon in the house, Harriman, Utah, Tucson, Arizona, and there's Mark Actual. Yes, best night of the week. We encourage you to subscribe to our free email at wiseguys.com. You can also watch all of our past content, including our recent interview with AJ DeBonsa, which was a lot of fun. That's sitting there waiting for you at wiseguys.com, and hit the free subscribe button on our YouTube channel. That helps us as we conquer the world. You know, it's just, and it's free, and that's our favorite price.
Look, you know, there's a couple of ways that fans and the audience can help programs and platforms like this. Is one, donate, right? But you guys don't take donations. Two, support the sponsors.
Yeah.
Right? And three, hit the subscribe button and the like button and the share button.
That's the easiest thing to do.
That's the easiest thing. And it's free. It's free, like you said.
Wise Guys, thrilled to have Brady Plus as our title sponsor. Brady Plus provides cleaning, food service, and packaging equipment, dispensers, and service and repairs with over 150 distribution facilities across the country. Over 6,000 employees. They're at the Pentagon. They're at Disney World. They're at BYU. They're all over the place. We're grateful to have Brady Plus. Travis Brady, by the way, is going to join us next week. He's the president of Brady Plus and a BYU alum. And we are distributed by the Deseret News and Deseret.com, Utah's newspaper since 1850. Look for our content on their social media sites as we serve Cougar Nation from all over the world. We got a lot going on tonight.
We do. First thing that we'll look at is what does BYU's future look like? You know, when it comes to recruiting, man, it's hard for me to keep up. Every time I turn around, there's a 5-star here, it's 3-star, 4-star. So things are looking good. We'll talk to the recruiting guru, Jeff Hansen.
He's one of our favorites, and man, does he know his stuff. We ask him a name, and he just goes, and you know, and here on the Wise Guys, we can say names and folks that are looking that aren't officially admitted and all that stuff. And so, man, I love picking his brain. And I know he's been prepping for it. And so I look forward to that. That's just in a few minutes. Mike Lacey, the man who caught the most significant pass in the history of BYU football, is in studio tonight. Now, just think about that for a second. And we're going to run down a list of some of the historic passes with him on the show. And then we'll talk about how his catch trumps all those that we bring up. And he might not say that, but we will. It was a catch against Texas A&M that changed the world for BYU football. So he's in studio. We look forward to having him.
You know, no disrespect to Mike, but the catch from in overtime, Utah for me, 2009. Whatchamacallit? Gosh, slipped my name already.
In 2009, the one at Lavelle Edwards Stadium?
Yep. We beat Utah. What's our tight end's name? Sorry, this is my CTE. Come in.
It was I'm going to quiz you. He was on this show before. He played opposite Dennis Pitta. Lives in Colorado.
I want to give this is a perfect example where don't let your kids play football right here. What is it? Oh my gosh! Yes, Andrew. I'm so sorry.
George. That's all right.
Can we cut this part out?
Yeah, but no, we're live. But Andrew George's thing was good, but not bigger than that. Come on, Bilo. We're going to talk about the significance of this one.
What year was that?
1979.
Yeah, I wasn't.
When were you born?
My parents didn't even meet yet.
Yeah. That's why we have this show. That's why we have this show, to bring everyone up to date, no matter where they were born. And so anyway, we're going to have a blast from the past and what that means for the future with Mike. And the future of BYU golf is going to be with us in studio. Prize recruit Kihei Akina. One of the top golfers in the entire country. He's like the AJ DeBonsa of basketball, but on the golf team. And he'll be sitting right next to you in just a little while. And we'll talk to him about why, of all the schools that he could go to, that he picked BYU, and what he's looking forward to doing when he starts playing golf here in a few months. So that's the lineup for tonight. We do have a Wise Guys giveaway that we want you to participate with. We want you to become a Wise Guy or girl for a day and come on the show and share your favorite BYU sports memory with everybody. So we've got this little thing to make that happen.
Yeah, so this is what you guys need to do. Everybody take out pen, paper, and write this down. Follow us on Instagram and X at Wise Guys. Then drop a teaser of your favorite BYU memory in the comments. Next, tag a friend while you're at it. You could tag your mom, your girlfriend, your wife, sister, cousin-in-law, neighbor, uncle, kid.
Yeah, covers everybody.
You guys get to choose. And then to get an extra entry, you guys can also post a story on your platforms as well.
So the deadline's June 1. We'll announce the winner on the show on Monday, June 2nd. Then we'll schedule you to join us as a Wise Guy or girl here on the program. So we're looking forward to getting as many of you on as we can, but we're going to start with one. So that's how to do it, and encourage you to do it over the next couple of weeks. Weston in from Nebraska. Good to have you with us. Tom's in from Vallejo, California, in the Bay Area. And Saratoga Springs in the house as well. There's Drummond, Montana, Boise, Idaho, as we welcome everybody in on our Monday night on the Wise Guys. Let's delve into some headlines since we were last together. Brian Santiago is the new athletic director at BYU. He succeeds Tom Holmoe. He'll lead the Cougars into their third year in the Big 12. You can see our in-depth interview with Brian at wiseguys.com. We did a while back, but you can learn a lot about his passion for the place and how excited he is to see BYU succeed. I talked to him the other night after the baseball game while the fireworks were going on Friday night, and that was at the tail end of a big week for him, and he's happy. He's done it. He knows how to do it, and we wish him the very best. We'll get him back on this show, but he's in Texas now with the baseball team. But so it's Brian Santiago as the AD.
Not there?
ESPN is doing the games, and so I'm not, and I'm okay with it. They're playing at 8 a.m. on Wednesday morning. We'll talk about that a little later. That's called Breakfast with the Cougs.
I wouldn't want no part of that. Not at all. BYU announced today the BYU School of Medicine will be constructed on the site of the former Provo High School on the west side of campus. This is a little disappointing for me. Some
people thought that might be a new athletic complex area, but when they announced the medical school, it seemed to be the natural, because you know what's across the street next to the McDonald's is the hospital. And so you got a med school, bunch of grass, Utah Valley Hospital. It makes perfect sense.
What makes perfect sense is a couple of apartment complex buildings for the BYU team. I shouldn't say BYU football, but like the BYU athletes, right? And they can leave for free.
Well, they're putting in a medical school. That's what they've decided to do. And that's where they're going to put it. John's in from Forney, Texas. Rebel Dog in from Huntsville, Alabama, checking in on the live stream tonight. The BYU Villanova opening night matchup in basketball was officially announced today. It'll take place on Monday, November 3rd at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas on TNT. So we've been talking about it for a while, but now we know the TV outlet and BYU and the little tournament group down there made that announcement today.
We all know why this is happening. Right.
Yeah.
That's why what happens when you get big time recruits.
Yeah, you enter the big time, and that's where they are.
Level. Absolutely.
So AJ's BYU run will begin in Vegas at T-Mobile Arena. Former Cougar Fred Warner today signed a 3-year extension with the 49ers worth $63 million. 56.7 of it is guaranteed. That's before he gets hit by anybody. And highest paid linebacker in football, and deservedly so. He's the best linebacker in football.
Can you imagine what that's a lot of tithe and offering? Right
That is. That is. And that's on top of what he's made already.
Right, exactly.
And he played injured all last season. He played every game. He's a people call him a warrior. He is a warrior.
Yeah. I mean, leadership, does things the right way on and off the field. He's never had any issues.
Yeah.
Picked up commercials because of how marketable he is. And you talk about dedication, and you talk about guys like LeBron, and you got to put Fred in this category as having, a long career, but successful as well, right? Usually the longer your career goes, body parts start to fall. We saw the brain fart that I had just a couple minutes ago. So imagine what.
And that had nothing to do with an NFL career.
You're right. That's right. Exactly. So not only do you have to be dedicated to like your craft, right?
Yeah.
As a player, you also have to be dedicated to your health and Fred deserves every penny that he's earned. He's
been fortunate, so is Kyle Van Noy, that they've been able to play for a while and not have the kind of injuries that end your career. Taysom has battled through all kinds of stuff, and he's getting ready to get back. But those guys are carrying the banner for sure. Debbie's in from Vernal, Utah on the live stream. Misty in from Bear Lake. And Nick from Pensacola, Florida. Good to have you guys with us. The start times, by the way, for BYU's first 2 football games of the season, they're going to be announced on Thursday, May 26th. That's Portland State, which is set for August 30th, and Stanford, which is September 6th. BYU has a bye week early, September 13th, so ESPN's going to announce the first 3 weeks. So we know the third week's a bye, so we might have to wait for the East Carolina road trip TV details for September 20th. But I always like it when they start announcing times and stuff because it feels like it's closer.
Yeah.
I mean, Nebraska put out a tweet the other day that said 15 Saturdays until football. And some people are like, don't hurry summer along, but we do that anyway because what we really love is at the end of the summer. And football's really smart. The NFL's genius. They just keep stuff along where it doesn't feel like it ends.
Yeah.
And then it's back.
Every quarter, right, with football, with the NFL is basically considered a new season. You think about the pro day and the draft, and you think about mini camps.
And then they have their schedule release.
They do a really good job. I like this because it lets me know the times of the games, but like now I can start to schedule and calculate, okay, after this game, it's a morning game, we can go to the club if we get a win. This game, we can go to the club if we get a win. I'm still waiting for you guys to come with me. Because
that's never going to happen.
We made that bet a couple years ago. That's why I had to throw that
Your
one in.
idea of the club's over at Blaine's house. Hot tubbing afterwards. Here's some ESPN details that are fun to pass along. Iowa State and Kansas State are going to kick off on August 23rd at 10 a.m. Mountain Time on ESPN. So they put out some early time. Cincinnati, Nebraska, August 28th. That's a night game on a Thursday on ESPN. And then TCU of the Big 12 and North Carolina Monday, September 1st on Labor Day, 6 p.m. on ESPN. So those TV times have been announced. And I think that's pretty cool.
I think this is great for scheduling because this is considered week 0, right?
Yeah.
When there's barely any teams playing, so everybody's all antsy. We just want football. At this point, we don't really care if it's our team that's playing.
We're watching
or not.
NFL preseason,
right?
Of guys we've never heard of before,
and we'll never see.
We may never see
ever
again. Here's one for you, Bilo. Ari Wasserman of On 3 Sports today picks BYU to win the Big 12 and lose to Ohio State in the second round of the college football playoff. Wow. They have BYU getting a first-round bye and Ohio State winning and then playing BYU and beating BYU. How do you feel about that? I'd take that in a heartbeat.
I would take it. I would take it too. But
it's interesting. The outsiders.
Is he a BYU guy?
No.
See, I think this is one of the things. Again, I think we got to get used to, especially me, because we get so much hate and we don't get a lot of respect in general, even when we deserve it. So to get national writers and analysts kind of giving us our flowers a little bit, I'm like, was he high when he was writing this or doing this analysis? But I had to pinch myself like, oh no, we actually are good. We actually have a good program. We have good recruiting.
Hey, the basketball polls have BYU number 5.
That was crazy to me. I was like, Jesus is coming back soon for BYU to be ranked preseason 5, right? It's just hard to have that mind shift.
Bilo, I'm going to go back through Isaiah tonight and see if that is one of the indicators. But I have a feeling that you've come up with that on your own. Circa Sports out of Vegas revealed the projected wins for the Big 12 this season. Arizona State, Kansas State, and Texas Tech, they say, are all going to win 8.5. BYU, Baylor, Iowa State, Kansas, and Utah, they have 7.5. Houston, TCU, Cincinnati, Colorado at 6. And then Arizona and UCF at 5.5. Oklahoma State and West Virginia at 5. So here's my question to you. If BYU wins 7 or 8 games, who are the 4 or 5 teams they lose to? I mean, they've got a pretty good home schedule.
Arizona State is – do we play Arizona State? Okay. TCU would be a tough one, I think. I think TCU would be – is going to be a sleeper. Baylor, I would say Baylor. We play Baylor, right? At Baylor.
I don't know why everyone thinks Baylor's going to be so good this year.
The quarterback. Yeah. Quarterback that they have.
Right.
One of the top rated quarterbacks in the Big 12. Utah is always a toss-up. I don't care what's going on. I don't think they lose to Colorado. They don't lose to Arizona. West Virginia? Oh, Iowa State. Iowa State's on the road. That'll be a tough one. TCU's in Provo in November.
Cincinnati, maybe BYU has a decent schedule.
Utah,
I don't see 4. I don't see 4 losses on there where you just go, "Yep, those are them."
I see 3.
Yeah, remember last year we had the debate of which home game would they win, right?
Ooh, yeah.
And then they won all of them at Kansas.
Yeah.
But they were underdogs in all of them. They were projected to win 3 games by ESPN. Yeah. So we're like, okay, well, where are the 8 losses?
And we play Utah at home, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a win.
So that's an interesting one, and they got more than 10 teams bowl eligible by their projections. I would put BYU around 9 with everybody coming back. 8.5, okay. I don't know if I'd go down to 7 because I'd sit there and go, well, show me 5 teams they're going to lose to if it was 7.
If we lose 7, if we only win 7 games, that there's going to be some major injuries in some key positions. That would be it because the number 1 defense in the league is back intact, if not stronger in some key areas. The quarterback's back, the running back's back, the receivers are back minus Lassiter and Marion. The kicker's back. Yeah. The offensive line has been, built up. I'd be surprised if they went that way. But if they did, you're right. It would be that half the team was hurt. And we've had those kind of seasons before. Anything's possible. Last year they just stayed healthy. Yeah, I mean,
even Jake played hurt.
Yeah, I think that's a testament to the new strength and conditioning staff, right?
Yeah.
I've never since I've been a part of this program in 2009, I've never experienced so little injuries, right? Like there's usually somebody in a major position that makes a major impact that is out for the season or out for a certain stretch of time. So yeah, shout out to them.
Hey, Lori on the stream says BYU Utah's on my birthday, hoping the Cougs roll over them. That's all I ask. What a great way to celebrate your birthday at the LaVell Edwards Stadium. And it's in October, so it'll be warm and certainly be at night. At least we would assume that it would be at night. And that atmosphere, hopefully not too late so jets can fly over, but that atmosphere is going to be awesome. That's a great place to spend your birthday.
That is, especially if they win, which I think they will.
Yeah, they should. Some key football dates, July 8th and 9th, the Big 12 Media Days in Frisco, Texas. July 29th, the season premiere of After Further Review on BYU TV. We believe camp's going to open on July 30th. And then July 31st, the first NFL preseason game. Lions and I believe the Lions and Chargers. And then once they start that, football's on TV the rest of the way.
Lions and Chargers, that's weird. Isn't it usually like the Browns and somebody?
I don't know.
Packers, like Browns and Packers usually, right?
I don't know. That's just the first thing they throw out there. The Big 12 championship game's been announced. That's December 6th at 10 a.m. on ABC. So that's the game you want to get in.
Absolutely.
That's what you want to do. Here's the Cougar Board question of the week. If you're not familiar with Cougar Board, it's the largest online community of BYU fans. Thousands of posts every day. This question comes from True Blue in Arizona, one of their insider subscribers. All right, Bilo, this one's for you. With summer's arrival and the last sports wrapping up their season, what do you do to get your BYU sports fix until football starts back in August, besides watching this show?
BYU sports fix.
Yeah, what do you do?
Watch these shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what's interesting about sports is the teams go away for a little bit. The fans never do. And so if you write an interesting article in the Deseret News, they're going to read it. If we have an interesting show with interesting guests like tonight, people are going to soak it in because they're fans all the time.
Yeah. I think probably another thing that I do is I shift my focus to recruiting, right?
Yeah.
Because you have this period where no sports are, and I know some fans, like major fans, they'll go back and watch certain games of last season. I'll start doing that towards August-ish, like when camp starts. That's when I'll go back and just watch some highlights and just try to get prepared, right? It's like fall camp for me, right? Yeah. Trying to get prepared for our pre and post game shows in the upcoming season and try to look for storylines, but mostly recruiting.
It's a challenge to get creative, but that's the thing. What can you write about in May and June that matters to folks? I got an article out tonight about Captain Crunch and the baseball team in the Deseret News. That's out in a little bit. But it makes sense to me. But you have to be. You got to be like, how does a Thursday 8 a.m. or Wednesday 8 a.m. game relate to anybody? It's like, well, we're eating breakfast. So anyway, that'll be something to check out a little later.
Last year was way different because the WNBA had Caitlin Clark, and so the excitement that the anticipation and the excitement that I have for basketball season or football season start is kind of what I had last year, and even more so this year. So this may be something that is I see for as long as Caitlin Clark is in the league and those type of storylines, it may be my first time I'm taking a break from BYU sports in summer.
That's not true. You're just saying that.
I shouldn't have said that out loud.
The NFL schedule is out, and there are a couple of things that jump out when that comes out because there's a bazillion games and all this stuff. I always like to, how's that going to affect my holidays? Yeah. Well, first of all, the season opener is September 4th, the Cowboys and Eagles on NBC. That's Thursday. Then the Chiefs play the Packers in Mexico on Friday, and then BYU plays Stanford on that Saturday night. So that's 3 great, glorious days of football for the consumer.
Yeah, no club that weekend for us.
Sunday night football, and then the next night is the Ravens-Bills. So if you love football, that's like the greatest week ever. For Thanksgiving, the Packers and Lions on Fox, the Cowboys and Chiefs on CBS, which already will be the most watched game in the history of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, yep.
And the Bengals and Ravens on NBC that night. Those are 3 games to work somewhere dinner. You work dinner in somewhere between those 3, which I think is awesome. And then on Christmas, remember the NBA used to own Christmas, as far as the sports stuff, and they still play all their games, but then football just came in and said, we're just going to take this over. So the Commanders at the Cowboys, the Lions at the Vikings, and the Broncos and the Chiefs on Christmas Day, which is a Thursday this year. And so that's awesome for the guy who likes to have a game on in the background,
Yeah. Sure.
Within reason, right? You have to do all the stuff that matters, but then it's nice to have football on.
Do we really?
Yes. The Super Bowl's February 8th in Santa Clara, California, where the 49ers play, and that's on NBC. Our first guest tonight's a longtime friend of the program, and when it comes to BYU football recruiting, he knows his stuff. You can follow his work at 247sports.com and CougarInsider.com, and you can get the latest from him right now as we welcome back to the Wise Guys, the wise Jeff Hansen. Jeff, it's great to see you.
Likewise. How are you guys doing tonight?
We're doing good. Every time we have you on this show, something good has happened with BYU
that
football.
feels like an omen, Dave. We might need to make note of that
Earlier today, for example, Terrence Sarian flips his commitment from Washington to BYU for the 2026 class, 5'10", 160, a perfect slot receiver. How big of a deal is this?
It's a big deal. When we look at the class of 2026, we always knew this was a big opportunity for BYU because they're the in-state class. It's probably the best that it's ever been. There's 30, 40 D1 guys in Utah. There's a ton of LDS talent. But this is a big deal for outside of that, right? Terrence Sarian comes. He's from out of state. He's not a member of the church. He was committed to Washington before, and BYU comes in and flips him. That's kind of a message to the recruiting world that, hey, BYU's growing up a little bit. Like, they can get outside of their backyard to go and get guys to come and play. They can steal players from the backyard of the big dogs like Washington where they were committed. It's a big deal from a messaging standpoint. I think it gives BYU and Kalani, that coaching staff, some credibility as they try to broaden their recruiting pool in the future. But it's also a big deal for this class. I mean, Sarian is a really, really good player. I think he's a little bit raw. He needs to get bigger. There's no question. At 160 pounds, he's going to have to get a little bit more physical. I think he needs to improve that top end speed a little bit, but he reminds me a lot of Cody Epps, the way that he is able to maneuver in space and get open. I think he's a really good fit for this offense.
I was thinking maybe even some Parker Kingston in him, size-wise and speed, playing that slot spot.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Parker's probably got him on the top end. I don't know that Terrence is a true burner who's going to get behind the secondary and just run away from everybody. But his route running is already really, really special. His ability to come in and out of his breaks and get open, it's something that at times, historically, BYU's really struggled with. They play bigger, faster, more athletic secondaries, and all of a sudden the wide receivers just aren't open. They need a guy like Sarian who can just come in and create space no matter what the situation is, and I think that's what he brings to the table.
Do you think this flip is just the momentum of BYU and the success that it's had over the last couple of years, or do you think this has to do with opening up the wallet and paying players?
I think there's a lot. I think that being competitive in that NIL space, look, trying to dismiss or downplay the role of money in recruiting anymore is foolish. It's a big deal. There's no question. There's also a lot of ties. Brock Harris plays on the 7-on-7 team with Terrence Sarian. He knows Fessy. He understands his role within the offense. I think there's a couple of other guys, Jaron Pula, Kenan Pula, that BYU would love to flip from UCLA that are also on that 7-on-7 team. So I think all of that other stuff, that NIL, all of that plays a role for sure. But there's also a level of comfortability with BYU that I think a guy like Terrence Sarian brings because he knows so many guys that even though he's from out of state and not a member, he's not a complete outsider who's going to be all by himself on day one. I think that helps BYU here as well.
On the broader side of things, whether it's the transfer portal or these high school kids coming in the future, how do you describe this time that we're in for Kalani Sitake and his football program?
I think it's fun. I think the coaches have got to be having a ton of fun. Look, recruiting's a grind. I mean, recruiting can be an absolute slog at times, and it's really deflating to invest multiple years into a player only to see them sign with somebody else on signing day. And throughout those independence years, that happened a lot because, it was independence. It was different. Somebody had come in from the Pac-12 or wherever and throw an offer late, and that was really appealing for a lot of players. And so I think for BYU right now, the fact that they're at the table with these guys, they've got the NIL to be competitive, and they've had the success on the field. Kalani's a recruiting guy. He always has been. He was a dynamic recruiter at Utah when he was there. Yeah. He came to BYU with a lot of energy. But I think you could kind of see it. I think if you gave Kalani and the coaches truth serum, they would tell you that, recruiting got really, really tough, and it was really, really hard to invest and go all in on some of these big dogs when you knew that there were bigger name schools that were going to come in late. I think they feel, I don't know, to me it feels like they're reinvigorated and they are competing with anybody. They don't care who else is chasing these guys. They feel confident in their abilities to establish a relationship. They feel confident in BYU's ability to support from a financial component, from a football component, from an education, whatever else it is that is important to a player. So I think they're having fun. I mean, these are recruiting coaches that are now being able to recruit with a full deck of cards, and I think that feels really good for them.
I think also there's a component in there for making sure that the guys that are out of state and not LDS have the resources and the tools that they need to be successful as well. Because there's times I remember when I played back in the day, where we would bring a kid up like, hey, I have a teammate from junior college that's interested, and coaches would be like, there's no way that kid can make it here. Right. like there's no way. So I think there's a little bit of that as well. And again, Jeff, I don't know if you're listening earlier. It's just so shocking to me. Every other day, it seems like there's a new commit, a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. And before Sarian committed, BYU's 2026 recruiting class is number 23, which is absolutely crazy to me. And that would be the highest in program history. So two things is, where would you rank it at the moment with that flip? And then number two is, have you seen the actual number of ranking and how that correlates to, into the season success, whether does that ranking correlate to playoffs? Does it, correlate to X amount of wins, et cetera?
Yeah, so let's tackle the first question.
Hey, first of all,
does BYU sit now?
Jeff, first of all, that was the longest question in the history of the show, Bilo.
Is my CTE, my CTE's acting up again.
We've all witnessed history here tonight. I just didn't want that to go unnoticed. All right, Jeff, carry on.
I'm glad I could be a part of it. So I think the BYU's class right now, it's funny. The transfer portal kind of changed the way recruiting rankings work. I think the answer to your second question, Brian, I think that 5 years ago, before the portal became crazy, where so many schools were putting half or more of their attention into the transfer portal, yeah, I think you could say that those numbers, that you really had to have 2 or 3 years in a 4 or 5 year span where you were a top 20 type of a recruiting school in order to get to the playoff. But I think with the with the transfer portal, it's kind of thrown all of that askew. And I don't know that we as the networks have caught up yet, because that transfer portal kind of gives a chance for an evaluator to have a do-over, right? You get to have a new evaluation based on, maybe somebody didn't develop, maybe there was an injury, maybe somebody grew 6 inches after they graduated high school and they were ranked a 2-star and went FCS, and now they're a big-time deal coming out of their junior, sophomore, junior year of college. So the transfer portal kind of made the rankings, to me, a little bit harder to say for sure that, hey, top 20 class, that's kind of the barometer. But I still think that loosely, you got to be in the top 30 to really be in contention. You've got to do that a couple of years. One top 30 class is great. But I mean, Brian, you know this as well as anybody. You got to have depth. You got to build out a program. It's tough to do that with one class. So I think you've got to do that for a couple of years before you're really going to be considered a playoff contender. Now, having said that, the Big 12, that's really where I kind of look at, where does BYU stack up with the Big 12? Because that's their path to the playoff. And I think right now, I haven't looked at it today after Sarian, but I think BYU's probably 4th or 5th in the Big 12 right now, which is about right where they want to be. And you look at the trajectory of where they could go with the rest of this class, with guys like Ryder Lyons and some of those guys that are out there, they could finish in the top 2 or 3 of the Big 12. And if you can do that, even with one class, because of the transfer portal, and then supplement it with some of these guys, regardless of where BYU falls in the national ranking, if they can get in that top 2 or 3 in the Big 12, then they're going to have a path to a conference championship and then in turn get into the playoff.
Conrad's on the live stream tonight from San Diego. Zachary checking in from Brush, Colorado. He says home of the most enthusiastic Cougar fan in the country, which is perfect because we've got BYU football recruiting insider Jeff Hansen on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus and distributed by the Deseret News. Let's talk about Ryder Lyons. He remains the highest ranked quarterback that's yet to commit, as far as I know. Oregon and USC think they're getting him. BYU's incoming recruits that you've talked to, that I've talked to, have told us even on this show, they think the Cougars are going to get him. So what do you think tonight?
Yeah, I think there are 3 schools that all think they've got him. And if you're Ryder Lyons, it's exactly where you want to be. I mean, I think it was Jake Caressa who told me once that the smartest advice he ever got as a recruit was just to commit to everybody and then figure it out at the end of the day. So yeah, I think there's 3 schools that feel really good. I think Oregon, USC, and BYU all feel like they are number 1 right now. I think BYU's in it as much as anybody. I don't know if they're number 1, but they're not number 2, right? It might be a 1A, B, C thing, but they're not behind anybody right now. From an NIL perspective, they're going to be as competitive as anybody else. So that's good. That's a big deal just in general for anybody, but that's a big deal for Ryder. That's going to be a big variable, I think, in his recruitment. The opportunity for Ryder is also pretty high. Of coming in and being a high-profile guy in Utah, I think there's a lot, and I think the Lyons family sees that there's a lot of opportunity, regardless of what an NIL package is from BYU. Yeah. The opportunity to come and be part of this community as that high profile of a quarterback, there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think that the way that Jake Retzlaff has developed this last season, that has really spoken really loudly to Ryder Lyons. I think a year ago, BYU was an afterthought. But the way that A-Rod and Matt Mitchell and this coaching staff helped Retzlaff develop, when you watch the way Jake plays the game, there's a lot of similarities to the way that Ryder Lyons plays the game. I mean, they aren't too different. I think Ryder Lyons has an extremely high upside, but just the way they see the game, the way they evade pressure, they use their legs to extend plays, there's a lot of similarities there. And I think that I think that Ryder has seen Jake and seen that development and thought, okay, plug me into that system and I can be really, really good. So I think that that's played a role. I don't know if BYU's number 1. I think anybody who says they've got this done is probably premature at this point, but they're not number 2 to anybody. They are neck and neck with Oregon and USC.
Is Ryder LDS?
Yeah. When is he going to announce? Like what is the time frame you've heard?
Yeah, I don't think he's come out and set a date yet. I know he's got official visits. I think they start next week, if I remember right, and they are scheduled out throughout the month of June. He will be at BYU, barring a change in plans, that June 20th weekend. That's going to be a really big weekend for BYU recruiting. I think that's the last one that he's got on the calendar today, so I would expect him to get done with that visit, take a week or two to regroup, kind of gather his thoughts, see what everybody else is, just catch up with his family, see what everybody else is offering. And I would expect a decision sometime in July. I know he wants to get things wrapped up before his senior season, but I don't know if that's July 4th or July 31st, but I would expect a decision sometime this summer.
He could come in and announce it on Stadium of Fire. That's
July
4th. That's perfect timing.
You should pitch that because you're the man.
Hey, so BYU just added Stanford transfer Bear Bachmeier from the portal. He comes in as a freshman, expected to contend for the starting job next year. How big of a deal is that for the Cougars?
Yeah, it's a big get. I think Bear Bachmeier, I'm really glad that he's coming in and will have a chance to learn from Jake for a year. I think today he's a little bit more athlete than quarterback, but he's a special athlete, and he can move. He can make all the throws. He's dynamic with his legs. He can beat teams in a variety of different ways. He's just got to learn that quarterback side of things. He's got to read a defense a little bit better. If you watch his tape, it reminds me a little bit of like a young Taysom Hill, a little bit of it's one read and then use your legs, because he's so good with his legs. He can beat anybody with his legs. So I think a year to learn this offense, to get comfortable, play behind Retzlaff, and learn the quarterback side of this sets him up really nicely to battle with McKay Hillstead and Trayson Bourget next year for that starting spot in 2026. He's not going to be beat out athletically. I think he's the most gifted, including Retzlaff. I think he's probably the most naturally gifted quarterback in the room right now. He's just got to learn how to be a quarterback at the college level.
Yeah, and how many people say he's like Taysom Hill? When you say that's something. You're like, okay, what? What are you saying? Yeah, he's like Taysom Hill. That's good.
Yeah, because
coming over from Stanford, it's similar, right? There's a lot of similarities there.
There is no other Taysom Hill, so it's like when you make that comparison, that's saying a lot. Jeff, do you think that Bachmeier signing will affect what Ryder might do?
It's a good question. I don't think so. Ryder is planning on going on a mission and then enrolling in 2027. So there's going to be a little bit of space in between. But a guy like Ryder Lyons, I've talked with him just a few times. I don't know him well. I'm not going to, claim to speak for him or anything like that. But I don't get the vibes that he's ducking anybody. I think he thinks he can beat out anybody in the country as soon as he walks in. So I don't think he's going to be too spooked by competition. I think he'll feel pretty confident going in against anybody.
Who else is on the radar for BYU, Jeff, that you're watching?
Yeah, a pair of offensive linemen that I think are probably the biggest names that are on the board right now that are not named Ryder Lyons. Malachi Lee's the top-rated offensive lineman, top-rated prospect out of Hawaii. I think he's on an official visit to Michigan right now. He's got Georgia and Texas and a handful of Alabama. I mean, that's his top 5 schools. And then there's BYU right there in the mix. He will be in Provo for his official. I believe it's that same June 20th weekend. He is an immediate guy who can come in and start right away. I mean, when people talk about him, I don't think he's quite as athletic as Kingsley was, but that's kind of the same vein that people talk about him in terms of upside and what he brings to the table. And then another one, an interior guy, Jax Tanner out of Idaho. I think he's the number 2 prospect in Idaho. He's really, really good. He's not quite a 4-star on 24/7 Sports yet. I think that will change in the coming months. He just released his top 4 schools. I think it's Tennessee, Michigan, Oregon, and BYU. So once again, I mean, BYU competing with the big dogs. He is a member of the church. His dad played at BYU. There's a lot of connections to the program. Yeah. Jax Tanner he's the real deal. For me, I'm an offensive line guy. Everything starts in the trenches. You got to land guys like Malachi Lee and Jax Tanner if you're going to be able to compete year over year.
You know, hearing these kids with these lists, right? I mean, these are like some blue bloods, like brand names. You know, you grow up playing NCAA, you know, college football on PlayStation, and you're playing with these teams. So to hear BYU being associated with these lists are crazy. And I want to know from in your opinion, are these kids? Sorry, Dave, I'm about to break the record. For the longest question.
You're on track. You're right on track.
I'm about to break the record. How legit is BYU being on this, like, the list, as far as like how much does BYU really have a chance, or do they just put BYU on the list by default because of the church? Right, yeah. It's happened before with basketball. We've seen it with high profile athletes all the time.
Yeah, we've seen it all the time, right? I mean, and I think I've covered recruiting long enough that I'm pretty jaded. That when I see BYU on a list like that's kind of where my mind immediately goes. The last couple of years, it feels different. I mean, a guy like Brock Harris had the same top 5, top 10, whatever. He had everybody in the country, and he's excited to come to BYU. Bot Mulitalo flips from Oregon to come to BYU. They're proving it in this class that the BYU's for real. And I think that the football team, I think they're doing a better job recruiting. They've got more resources. They've got more coaches who are able to form those relationships, all that stuff. So they're doing a better job just from a process standpoint. But I think that the football team can probably look to the basketball team and let them, you know, give them a big hearty thank you, because a guy like AJ Debinsa coming in makes BYU cool, right? Like a guy like AJ that can go anywhere and is going to be the face of basketball, college basketball next year, comes to BYU and he didn't have to. Like BYU's cool, and it gives them some credibility as they go anywhere. That I think they're riding that wave. And then you get these guys that are in that natural BYU footprint, that BYU's cool for them kind of already. And then you have the outside sources, the guys like AJ saying, hey, no, BYU really is cool. It's helping, man. And I think that maybe a couple of years ago, I would have said, yeah, there's a lot of token inclusion of BYU on these lists. But over the last 24 months or so, it's felt different. BYU's absolutely in contention.
Couple more questions with Cougar football insider Jeff Hansen on the Wise Guys. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and wiseguys.com. And in a moment, Jeff's going to reveal his 5 most intriguing Big 12 matchups of the season. They might not necessarily be all BYU games, but I have a feeling there'll be a few of them, and that's just a moment away. Mike Lacey is going to join us in just a bit. He's the guy who we believe, Jeff, caught the most significant pass in the history of BYU sports. And so you can debate that with us a little bit later on. But let's talk about the defensive line. Since we were together last, Oklahoma State transfer Justin Kirkland comes in. Now he joins Keanu Tanavasa. Is all of a sudden the interior defensive line better than it's been in a few years?
It's better than it's been in a long time. Yeah. I really like. So I'm a Davis County guy. I've covered Justin Kirkland back when he was at Roy. and couldn't figure out why this kid wasn't getting any bigger offers than Utah Tech. I mean, that's where he went out of Roy. If he entered the NFL Combine today, he might contend for the bench record. I think when he gets to the NFL Combine, when his career is done, he'll probably set the bench record at the Combine. He's one of the strongest kids that I've ever seen, and his ability to just move blockers is special. And you put that alongside a guy like Tanuvasa, who, if you go back and you watch that BYU-Utah game last year, Tanuvasa was a menace because of the way he shoots gaps.
Yeah.
He's not a block eater. He doesn't want to just take up space. He wants to make plays and shoot gaps, not fill gaps. And you now have a guy who can fill gaps and move blockers around alongside of him and Kirkland. It's going to be really tough to double Keanu Tanuvasa because you've got to pay attention to the guys that are on the edge. You got to account for Kirkland in the middle. I think BYU's got a lot of pieces to be really good across the entire defensive line, but I think that Kirkland is a really big piece just for the interior. It kind of solidifies that depth. It lets John Tamoy-Peau, he probably moves into a backup spot where I think that's probably where he's best suited because he plays so hard. He can come in and do 2-3 plays at a time, but if he's playing, 4, 5, 6 plays at a time, I think John T gets a little bit tired. Now you can spread out those reps a little bit. It spreads out that bench, deepens that bench for sure. Justin Kirkland, man, it was an enormous addition for BYU.
Now I know why Oklahoma State fans are mad. Now I get it. It's all making sense now. That breakdown, that's a great breakdown.
Hey, San Diego State defensive back Tavion Beasley has joined the Cougars since we were last together. Are you prepared tonight, Jeff, to say that BYU's roster is now solidified for opening night?
I think so. I thought I was prepared to say that before Beasley. So things can change quickly for sure. But I think so. I'm curious how the Beasley addition fits. Because if I was just looking at the roster, I would have said BYU probably needs a corner.
Yeah.
They added a guy who's only played safety throughout his college career. I feel like that safety room is pretty well stocked.
Yeah.
I know that they originally recruited Beasley as a cornerback. I know Gennaro had a relationship with him coming out of high school. That's been a few years. So I'm curious how he fits into the mix. Maybe he's a nickel guy, and that's where they see him fitting. But I think so, Dave. I think at this point that roster is set. Maybe they throw in one late addition, and it is a corner, but I think that Beasley takes up that spot.
I think you're right. I haven't seen his film yet, but just initially, as you were breaking that down, I was like, yeah, we're good. Safeties are good. So, and you think about Jacob Robinson leaving, right? Even though he played corner, but he was the starting nickel as well. So I could see, Beasley coming in and taking that nickel responsibility, over for Jacob.
Sure. Yeah, could be. Yeah. Hey, ESPN ranks the Cougars number 10 in their post-spring practice poll. Where would you rank them?
I think that's about right. I mean, I'm always a little bit skittish to go too high. 10 feels really high to me, but it's hard to argue against it. Returning quarterback, they bring back so much from a skill position standpoint. The defense, that linebacker core is going to be up there with the best in the country. We just talked about the defensive line. The coaching staff all comes back, and I think in the transfer portal era, continuity is the most valuable asset year over year because there's so much new for everybody. New rosters, new players, new homes, and getting used to new environments. Coaching staffs are always changing. But for BYU, man, I mean, it's more of the same next year. And so I think that continuity is going to be incredibly valuable. So it's hard to argue against 10. It scares me a little bit. I like being the underdog and sneaking up on people. But I think that's about where I'd have them.
Yeah, those days of being the underdog sneaking up might be behind us. Yeah. Sylvia from Wisconsin has joined the stream just in time for 5 questions for Jeff, presented by Strategy Square. Add some muscle to your company's social media presence with Chantal at strategysquare.co. Tonight, Jeff will reveal his top 5 most intriguing Big 12 matchups of the coming season. 5 down to 1, with 1 being the most intriguing. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Who do you got number 5 out of the gate?
Yeah, number 5, I think it's their Big 12 opener. Arizona State will go to Baylor and play at Waco. That, to me, is the first. I think Arizona State's non-conference schedule is fairly soft. That's the first real test for Sam Leavitt to prove that that it's Sam Levitt's offense. It wasn't Cam Scadaboo's offense. And so I think that's a huge test. I think Baylor's going to be really, really good this year. That game's going to be a ton of fun in Waco.
I think it was Scadaboo's offense is what I think it was.
I think it was too.
100%.
I'm glad to see him moving on, to be honest. All right, number 4.
Number 4, I got Texas Tech. When they come to Utah, Texas Tech, if you haven't seen what they've done in the transfer portal, they have added talent on talent on talent. I mean, I think it's the number 1 portal class, and they just keep adding more. They are bringing a lot of NIL dollars to the table, and they're throwing them around in the transfer portal. So there's a ton of talent in Lubbock. Utah obviously had that down year last year. I think they're still a really talented team, especially in the trenches. If they could figure things out offensively, I think Utah's going to be pretty good. So this is 2 teams that should be good, should be better than they were a year ago, that got to figure it out on the field at Rice-Eccles Stadium. I'm excited to watch that one.
Okay. All right. Number 3.
Number 3, now we get a little bit more, we get to at home a little bit. BYU at Iowa State. That's the game I feel like we all wanted to see last year.
Right.
I'm excited to see it this year. I wish it was in Provo, but that environment, we've seen it at basketball. Ames is crazy, and those football games are going to be fun. I think that's going to be a really fun game.
I don't like playing there. I don't like playing them. I mean, they're always a very physical team.
Yeah.
They remind me of old school BYU where, hey, we have to beat our opponent based off of, outworking them, right? So the physicality they bring in, and I'm not saying there's nothing to do in Provo, because there's tons of stuff to do in Provo, but I don't really know what there is to do in Iowa. So when you think about the support and just the fanatics that those fans are, plus most of them probably aren't going to be sober, so it makes things even more chaotic, and it's just hard. It's just hard environment to play it. Sorry, I'm sorry. It's my CTE.
It's going to be one of the games of the year for sure, and there could be a lot riding on it for where it sits in the season. All right, what do you got for number 2? By the way, Michael's in from Beaumont, Texas, just in time to hear your number 2 most intriguing Big 12 game of the season.
Number 2, it's a trip to Texas. When BYU goes to Lubbock to play Texas Tech, again, all of that talent that Tech has, all of that experience that BYU has, and Lubbock's not an easy place to play.
No.
And I think that the fans in Lubbock are going to be more into this team this year than they have since maybe Mahomes was there, because of all the talent that's there. I think that's another crazy environment, super talented team. I'm excited to see that one.
Okay. All right. That leads us up to the number 1 most intriguing Big 12 game of the year. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to wait. So who's your number 1?
Yeah, shouldn't surprise anybody. The Holy War this year in Provo for the first time in a while. BYU riding 2 games. Anybody can win 2 games in a row. 3 games is a winning streak. So it's a big one for BYU. I think the roles have reversed, right? I mean, Utah is a little bit the underdog, the overlooked, and you know that Witt's going to lean into that. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what this game looks like. I think Utah, whether they're good or bad, it's the same argument we made for 10 years when BYU was getting beat every year.
Yeah.
This game is going to come down to the last possession no matter what.
It's going to be exciting, and it'll be fun to have it here at LaVelle Edwards Stadium with all of that. Those are 5 good ones. How about, as a bonus, Iowa State, Kansas State, August 23rd in Dublin. Where would you put that game?
I love that game. Farmageddon's a ton of fun. I hate that they took it to Dublin. That's one of those games that I want to see in a home field environment.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
maybe
it's the first
second
game. And it's the first game.
It is. It just feels weird to me because I think that's probably the Big 12's second biggest rivalry game. So to put that in a different country in a week 0 game, I don't love that. So it fell outside of my top 5 just because of where it's being played. But in terms of those 2 teams, man, I mean, there's a ton of talent. That's going to be a lot of fun. Those 2 fan bases don't like each other at all. That's a fun game.
Yeah, you got us ready for football this weekend. That was we love when you come on the show. So much knowledge, enthusiasm for the game, and you're among the best at what you do. So thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on.
You can follow Jeff at 247sports.com and CougarInsider.com, and of course at Rakoto10 on X. Thank you for being with us. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate you guys. We'll see you.
Jeff Hansen. I told you, Bilo, he knows his stuff.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like,
he's awesome.
Getting ready. I wish we could play alumni game. tomorrow.
You're ready to get suited up too?
I'm ready, yeah.
That's awesome. Our next guest may have caught the most important pass in BYU history, and considering how many passes have been caught at BYU, that's saying a lot. He's also host of the Beyond the Game podcast. It is our pleasure to welcome to the Wise Guys former Cougar tight end Mike Lacey. Welcome.
It is so good to be with you guys. I feel like I'm on the ESPN show. Yeah, this is big time.
What do you think of our lair here?
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's beautiful.
It's cool. And how about Jeff Hansen? Does he not know his stuff?
That was amazing.
You just ask him one question and bang.
I need to pay much more attention to him and to you guys because you've led me down the path. Although I'm curious, if somebody thinks we're going to be 7.5 to 8.5 wins, and there's other teams 8.5 to 9, so they're saying we're like 4th in the Big 12, yet 10th in the country. What does that mean?
I guess that means the teams that are ahead of us are going to be
so the Big
they're
12,
top 5. They're
right. Going to dominate.
We're going to have 5 teams in the playoffs. I guess 4 teams. I guess.
DJ, can you tweak Mike's mic there for a second? So look, we've got a lot to talk about, and you had 3 career receptions, and yet we are going to spend a great deal of time talking about
did you have to deal
your
with
impact at BYU as what we believe is the most significant catch in the history of the program, which is interesting because it doesn't even show up in the stats as a catch because it came on a 2-point conversion, right?
That's correct.
So you have to know, and we know. But to set this up, let me start by listing some of the biggest receptions in BYU history. And we'll ask folks on the live stream. They can offer some suggestions too. But this is to set the tone for the magnitude of yours. All right? So, and you can join in with us as some come to mind. But there's the Clay Brown Hail Mary in the 1980 Holiday Bowl.
That's the one I would probably vote for.
You're voting for that one, right? That's the first suggestion you're voting for. Eddie Stinnett to Steve Young to win the 1983 Holiday Bowl.
That was exciting.
Was that the
final seconds? A flea flicker.
Left-handed. Yeah.
What about there was Robbie's pass to Kelly Smith to win the Michigan game in '84?
That was big in the history of BYU.
Ty Detmer hit Mike Salido to take a 28-21 lead over number 1 Miami.
Oh, I remember that one.
That was a big one. How about this one? We don't think about this one too often. Brandon Doman to Jonathan Pittman to set up Doman's winning run at Utah in Lavelle's final game. Right away, he's just scrambled around and he just chucked it 50 yards, and Pittman caught it like the 4-yard line.
I never seen the highlight.
Yeah, you should see that highlight. Of course, on the stream, John Beck to Johnny Harleen to beat the Utes in 2006.
That's a good one.
Look, we're just getting started.
That's a good one right there.
Max Hall to Austin Collie on 4th and 18.
Oh,
that was iconic.
Iconic.
That one's crazy because you like the how dumb the DB was. Like it takes away from how good the overall play was, because it's like for nobody in their right mind should get a conversion on 4th and 18.
No.
Right? You don't think like, oh, how good was that pass?
Except this past year against Utah. It wasn't 8 good. In fact, it was more. But anyway.
Right.
That's coming up. Let's see. There's Max Hall to McKay Jacobson to beat Oklahoma at Cowboy Stadium.
I vote for that one.
Tanner Mangum to Mitch Matthews, Hail Mary to beat Nebraska at the buzzer.
Fun. So
there's how about Zach Wilson to Micah Simon to set up the game tying field goal at Tennessee. Remember, it was like a 64-yarder with time winding down.
And he was too slow.
We're talking about some of the biggest passes, biggest receptions in school history. Jaron Hall to Puka Nacua in the corner to beat Boise State. That crazy catch where he got the toe in.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Keaton Slovis to Chase Roberts, one-hander to beat Arkansas. Yeah.
I remember.
What was that, 38-31? Jake Retzlaff to Darius Lassiter last season to beat Oklahoma State.
Oh, so big.
And have you ever heard Lavelle Edwards Stadium louder than when Lassiter broke across the goal line? I mean, it was totally improbable.
You really didn't put Andrew George's.
No, but you can include it.
Why did you do that?
Just because I listed like 20. There's like 50. Mm-hmm. Bilo wants the Andrew George.
It off earlier.
That's what I'm saying. See, that's what I mean. I think you knew I was going to come last minute, and you decided to make an audible.
All right, so the reception that may surpass all of those that we just mentioned as the most significant, not the biggest, wildest, craziest, most significant in BYU history was caught by our guest here tonight, who had more tackles and rushing attempts than actual catches in his Cougar career. And that's you. Where do you think you fit on the list of the most significant catches?
Well, if you base it off of my mother's attitude,
okay,
it's probably number one.
All right, what do you think? You caught it, and you've watched all these other receptions.
There are so many exciting ones. I don't know if mine was the most significant, and it was so ironic that I was even the guy there. I feel like I'm maybe one of the luckiest guys in the world to have been there at that time. And at that time, it was a big deal because we were at A&M. They were ranked in the top 20. It was 1979, before Brian was even born.
Yeah.
My parents were listening to it in California on KSL, and it was just crackling. And this was back when you look at the video of the game, it looks like it was in the 1930s. There was like snow on the TV, and it was not snowing in Houston. It was hot, brother.
Well, let's.
But you asked me the question. I'd put it in the top 3 or 4.
Top 3 or 4?
Yeah.
That's a good answer. Former BYU tight end Mike Lacey's on the Wise Guys. Presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. So let's go back to September 8th, 1979. Rice Stadium in Houston, Texas. It's not in College Station because Kyle Field's under construction. BYU's taking on number 14, Texas A&M. The game is the first live football game on KBYU Channel 11.
Wow.
And I know that because my dad was the spotter
Nice.
up in the booth. And
Paul
we're all
James
sitting around.
and Virgil Carter.
Yeah, we're all sitting around the TV. I think Jay Monson had the TV. Paul's on the radio.
That's right.
We're all sitting around the TV watching this thing. So set the scene for us as we move into some of these plays. How big of a moment was this game for BYU?
We were looking at it from the prior year. We had so many guys on the redshirt team in 1978. This was a long time ago. But we knew the 1977 team was good. And then we were bringing a whole group of guys in that were just really raring to go. Strong athletes, many that went on to the NFL. So we knew we had the opportunity, and we knew, kind of like this BYU team in this past season, that everyone was overlooking us. And yet we were going to one of the top teams and one of the top environments in the world. So it was going to be a challenge. And that was one of the biggest things. And then Mark Wilson had an appendectomy just weeks before the season.
What's that?
His appendix burst up in the mountains. And so here he was. He's not the biggest guy in the world anyway. He's tall, but he was already pretty thin.
Right.
And then the weight that he lost because of the appendectomy, emergency appendectomy, he looked like Abraham Lincoln out on the field, but he sure played well.
And you thought maybe Jim McMahon was going to play that game, right?
Jim
he was
traveled.
redshirting.
He was redshirting, and the coach and he had agreed he's going to redshirt, but they didn't know. Maybe Mark was going to be, sidelined because of his injury. So Jim was there, ready to go.
So let's go to the fourth quarter. It's 17-10, Texas A&M. There's 52 seconds left. Mark hits Clay Brown for a touchdown. That cuts the lead to 17-16.
Now, you skipped one big part.
Uh-oh.
Tim Halverson blocked a punt. All right, we blocked Texas A&M's punt. We were going to have a long field. Special teams came in. And so that was a big deal, to be on their side of the field. And Clay Brown then catching the touchdown. Sorry to interrupt.
No. You were there. So Halverson blocks the punt. Here you come. You score. It's a 1-point game. So now it's what to do next. Kick the extra point or go for a 2-point conversion to take the lead. Again, there's 52 seconds left. How did those discussions go on the sideline? You were there.
I was there. And they were rotating me back and forth at fullback. I'd already known. I heard Doug Scoville and Lavelle Edwards. Doug asked him, what are we going to do when we score? We were down by 1. Mm-hmm. And Lavelle said, we'll go for 2. So I already knew. And I was out on the field when we scored. So Mark called a timeout, and he went to the sideline. But I already knew, hey, we're going for 2, guys. This is great.
So did you tell the other guys while Mark was off the sideline?
No.
I know what we're doing?
It was so loud, we couldn't even hear each other. We all put our earpieces to Mark's mouth when he was telling us to play. It was A&M fans are loud even when they're in Rice Stadium.
Yeah. Okay, so you decide you're going for 2. You know you're going to get the ball. So BYU's never defeated a top 15 team. And you're on the road, and it's loud, and you can't hear. Team breaks the huddle at the 3-yard line. What's going through your mind?
Well, the crazy thing is we just put in this play weeks before. It was a fake draw pass. Who runs a draw play on the goal line?
Nobody.
Nobody. Nobody. And the funny thing was, nobody. It was the funniest thing when we look back and say, that is the most. But Mark said, I mean, Doug called, let's run a little play, and we'll pass it to the corner and catch it over our shoulders. Mark didn't want to run that. So he said, no, let's run this new play we have. And Doug and Lavelle said, okay, let him do it, you know. And one of the great things about this coaching staff that we had, and I think that what Kalani is emulating, is the fact they give us freedom. Yeah. They, you know, and so anyway, Lavelle and Doug's, okay, Mark, if you feel that way. Well, I was the only receiver, and I'm supposed to fake like I'm blocking the middle linebacker. Hopefully he shucks me, and then I go out free. And fortunately he did. If he stuffed me, the game, you know, it was like the Taysom extra point against Utah.
Yeah.
You know, it just gets stuffed. That was
so the
setup.
ball snapped, and you bounce off him.
The middle linebacker lets me go.
And then you get a horrible throw your way that you have to make like one of the greatest catches ever. What happened?
Well, that's what was so weird. And what's so fun hearing it from Mark's lips is I thought, oh, Jacob Green, the great future NFL all-pro guy, I figured, oh, he's hanging on Mark, and that's why Mark just barely let the ball go. Apparently, Mark told me later, Jacob Green was just in between him and me, and just, you know, he was ready to block whatever pass. Mark wasn't going to get around him on a run.
Right.
So Mark said he had to kind of toss it to the side, and then I dove. I thought I made a one-handed catch, but now the film makes it look like I caught it with 2. I don't know.
Well, that's how they coach it, right?
I know, that's true.
Well, he could stay between you guys because of how short the field is, right?
We're on the 3-yard line.
Yeah. There's nowhere to go. So
there's no space.
Yeah.
There's no
that
space.
Makes sense.
So where was that ball? And you're looking at it, and it's a millisecond, right? But you know you have to catch it.
It's a millisecond, Dave. And when he released the ball, I mean, immediately, impossible, you know. So I just dove, and thank heavens it landed there. I was a center fielder in baseball, and so when you catch that ball, you have to sell it to the hump.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I rolled over as best I could, and the first guy that got me in the end zone that celebrated with me was Jim McMahon from the sideline.
He ran all the way in.
Nice. You know, back then they didn't, defend.
Yeah.
That rule.
They didn't care.
What was that feeling like?
I still, the joy or the fun of being in a play like that, being called, Mark calling me, this was my first game back from a mission and red shirt. So, and it was essentially an answer to prayers. I want to come back. I want to play football. And Lavelle had talked to me earlier. Mike, not many guys come back and play football. Back here in the 1970s, it wasn't the automatic thing that young men did on the football team.
Right.
So,
so if you went on a mission, you wouldn't come back and play.
He was worried most of the guys wouldn't come back and be able to play. He says, Mike, you can go after your football. And I'm going to set you up with 2 people in Salt Lake City that are going to tell you how good that is. To answer your question, it was a joy. And when we got there to Provo at like 3 or 4 a.m., the bus pulls up and my car looks like I just got married. All the whipped cream and balloons, and it was fun.
Former Cougar Mike Lacey's on the Wise Guys. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. I know that the McCann celebrated that win by banging pans on the front porch in Orem because we didn't have any fireworks, so we'd have lit them off. But I remember that distinctively. And in the eyes of many, this game is when BYU transitioned into becoming a national power. Do you agree?
I really do. I think that those teams from 1979, 80, 81, when you look at the people, and the guys on my team, 24 of my teammates went on to play in the NFL, significant years. offensive line, linebackers,
Yeah.
defensive line, defensive backs, even defensive backs. You know, Tom Homo, Bill Shefflin.
Yeah.
Running backs, Eric Lane, Homer Jones, Bill Ring. So we had some wonderful teams, and it was just a joy to be a part of them.
When you look back at your career, you know, you only had 3 receptions in that 2-point conversion.
Which is 3 more than we had, just so you know, you're still the man.
Brian probably had some picks.
No, I have 5 interceptions.
Those were, yeah, but those,
That's more. That's
those
more.
weren't on offense. Those weren't on offense, Bilo. We're talking about receptions, not interceptions.
Oh, the other way around. So, like, how does it feel to like have? I don't want this to sound bad, but like so little receptions, but then you have one of the most significant and important receptions, right? How do you as a player? That's got to feel. I don't want to say torn, but I mean, yeah. Talk about that.
I've had a lot of torn feelings.
Okay.
You know, and on this podcast, I love what you guys do. And I'm only trying to emulate and compliment what you guys do. So the stories that we have in this Beyond the Game are really just supplemental to what you have. I tried to interview a young man who's been very successful in his career after playing at BYU. But his statistics were similar to mine. And I saw that he was very depressed, frustrated. He didn't want to talk about the good things, the overcoming adversity and things like that. And I saw how it ate him up. And there are times when it ate me up. But Lavelle Edwards later in his career said that was one of his biggest regrets, that he moved me around to all these different positions.
Yeah.
And maybe the most consequential play in my life wasn't that Texas A&M catch, but my best friend Danny Frazier, who broke his neck in that very game,
right.
only the next quarter, or in the quarters before. And because of that, Lavelle asked me to switch back to linebacker. And I'm and so I have more block punt, kick return, touchdowns than I have touchdowns on offense. But I had a feud with Coach Whittingham, Fred Whittingham. I chose to go on a mission, and he had me starting that next year. And he didn't, I don't know if he forgave me, but I don't know. The real problem was that I let it fester in me. I did not handle that circumstance right. So I look back, and there were meaningful lessons that I learned. I ended up playing second string linebacker. Jim McCann asked me to come back to offense, but then I tore the ACL. And my career was over after those years. I have no regrets. I look back at those experiences, my teammates. Nobody looks down on me except Dave. Dave, he's the only guy that's brought up, hey, Lacey, you've got single-digit carries.
Look, that's just an interviewer setting up the big catch.
I love it. And so you could call me the one-hit wonder, right?
I'd call you the wonder, the guy who caught the biggest catch in the biggest game. BYU had never even beaten a top 15 team before in school history. And you do that, and folks on YouTube, if you go there, you can see it. It is not a down and out, and the ball hits you in the numbers. It is a phenomenal catch. And it's the kind of catch most people don't make that you made.
Especially Stonehand's linebacker Lacey.
Especially
right?
Stonehand linebacker.
Stonehands.
In that setting, and of course, the team finishes 11-1 that year, ranked 13th in the country.
We lost to Indiana in a game that was the reverse of the SMU game.
Yeah, and a field goal that went awry at the end. I was at that game. And from my angle, I couldn't tell if we made it or not, but we had Indiana fans around us, and they let us know. But you go 11-1, and then the next year, and then the next year, and then the next year, and then all of a sudden there's a national championship, and then there's a Heisman Trophy, and now there's the Big 12. I mean, it's all linked. And Giff and Gary would all say that there was stuff before, which is true. But the 79 game, the 2-point conversion, and that catch to beat A&M, in the eyes of many, was the start. I'm
grateful I was there. Yeah. And I'm grateful that they called my number. And I'll guarantee you there were many other guys on that team that were just as prepared. I was fortunate. Doug Scoville ran us to death all summer long. Jim and Mark and Steve Young, and there were 7 other quarterbacks because that was when Steve was like the 7th.
Yep.
Doug Scoville wasn't going to start a lefty who ran. You know?
That's not how he rolled.
So I'm just grateful to be part of those wonderful teams, even though Brian wasn't even born yet.
Well, I mean, you see what you build? Like, I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for that catch.
And I'm grateful that you were. I mean, it's fun to have this brotherhood with all of our teammates.
It is.
And the people associated with the program.
So 11-1, you finish 13th. Last year, the Cougs go 11-2, finish 13th. So here they come this fall. What are your expectations for the months ahead?
By the way, one of the great ironies to me was that our Indiana game was lost on a punt that they shanked that hit one of our guys that was in the wall, and they scored on it. Does that resemble anything from this past season?
The nightmare of Kansas.
The nightmare of Kansas. That was Indiana. And Lee Corso thought that, they blocked the punt or something, but no, they did.
That's the worst way to go out. Out of all the ways to lose a game, that is the worst way.
And we still had it, and I love Brent Johnson. I love when he talks about, that unfortunate miss of a field goal. But, Dave, I forgot your question. CTE, brother.
See, he gets me. He gets me.
I do.
What do you expect this fall?
I love this team.
Yeah.
Honestly, as a football player, I'm mostly the laissez-faire kind of guy. I like the coaching that lets me and the other coaches and the players have freedom enough to go out and work hard. And so the disciplinarianism that we had before Kalani seemed like it was missing. And I worried as a player, as an ex-player. But I see this team gelling around their desires, this love and learn. Okay, they're going to love and learn. But now it's humble and hungry along with love and learn. I love what they're doing. I think that they're building a culture that's a hardworking, accountable group. And I know these guys really want it. They're in a tough league. Texas Tech that's one of the teams that could be a loss if we, have a bad punt or something. So
it could be a loss if we go down there and play great.
It could be because
right,
they're so good.
Yeah.
But I still expect them to really do well. I will be so excited if we make it into the playoffs. And sure, the big national pun is, Ohio State will clean the field with you guys, right? But no, I mean, we could have and should have been there. I baited the team this year when I asked them, that wasn't fair, was it? It's on us. They say, I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about Beyond the Game and this podcast that you're doing. That's got some great stories, and you do a great job with that. Tell us about why you're doing it.
Now, that's a good question. That's the one I don't know. A couple of years ago, I had the idea. There's so many games. The Mark Wilson idea of the appendectomy, and every season, every team, every player has things that happen in the background that if we knew, I think we can apply those things to life and to our families, to our work, to our communities. And so I love to bring these stories out, to help these people tell, even though we've heard them. It's funny that even Mark, a play that I was the other guy.
Yeah.
I didn't know why that ball was out there until he told me in this last podcast.
Well, it's fun to interview people. There's nothing more unnatural than being interviewed, especially with cameras and lights and recordings and all that stuff. But once you slip past that, it's the way you get to know people, And I learned in the news business that the follow-up is the question. Every politician would already memorize what they were going to tell you, and then when they're done, you go, well, why?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, then you find out how they feel. And it's the same thing. Yep. For you, it's like, you caught that ball and you're laying in the end zone and all that stuff. What was that like?
Oh, my.
And only you can answer that. And then all of a sudden, the juices come back from the moment, and then you take us there, and we can feel the magnitude of what you did. And that's what I love about it.
So do I. In fact, my career was in finance. I was a portfolio manager. The most fun I had was sitting down with people and finding out what drove them, what their desires were, what their fears were. And I thought after I retired, hey, I can do that with this, you know. And and I saw you guys, and it looks fun, you know.
It's fun. It is.
It's fun. It's fun because you're with people talking about stuff. Kihei Akina is going to join us in a minute, and we've never talked to him in our life, but we're going to have a good time. He's one of the best golfers in America that's coming to BYU.
I aspire to be a good golfer someday. I live next to the Lundells, Carson Lundell is probably a friend of his, and I mean, I will get down on my knees and say, please just touch me and help me hit a ball right, you know.
Let's finish with 5 questions for Mike Lacey, presented by StrategySquare.co. These are rapid fire. We're going to get to know you really fast.
Oh, my.
And really well. Bilo, you ready?
Rapid fire meaning like it's 2-minute drill. We have no timeouts.
CTE included, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Be careful. We might have to edit.
You heard that, right? You say you might have to edit it. Okay, all right, here we go.
Live stream.
Favorite sports movie?
Remember the Titans. What a great movie.
It's a great one.
Favorite singer or band?
I'm from the era where the Beatles, I mean, I saw them in Shea Stadium on the TV, and I thought, wow, these guys are cool.
All right. There's no shame in the Beatles. That's awesome.
I love the Beatles.
Okay.
Favorite breakfast cereal?
Breakfast cereal. This is boring, but frosted shredded wheat, whatever.
Isn't that
terrible?
Is that like Frosted Flakes?
No, it's maybe a tiny
It's like
bit more
Frosted
healthy.
Flakes, only wheat.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Instead of corn.
Frosted shredded
He's right. He's right.
I love that you added the frosted. That brings it to life.
Well, shredded wheat sounds boring.
Right.
Frosted shredded wheat. Okay.
Favorite thing about Mark Wilson?
Favorite thing about Mark Wilson, his humility. I mean, contrast him with Jim McMahon. I love them both.
Yeah.
And yet not that Jim was braggadocious. He wasn't. He was also a humble guy. But literally, Mark Wilson could play Abraham Lincoln. I think he has the same kind of wisdom.
Abraham Lincoln wisdom for Mark Wilson.
I think so.
I've never heard that as a compliment of all compliments.
Yeah. You should get a shirt made.
That's good. Hey,
get that quote.
Who threw a tougher pass to catch, McMahon or Wilson?
Steve Young.
I was gonna say Steve. the lefty spin.
Right? You had to move your hands differently.
Steve was the.
I'm gonna say both of those guys. They threw differently. Mark Wilson and Jim McMahon.
Right.
Jim had a little more zip, but it still came in soft. So
and Wilson was kind of up top,
and he came in soft too. Both of them were, to me, easy to catch.
Yeah.
And then Steve, you had to go like this.
Steve looks like you.
And he threw it well. Nothing against Steve.
It looked like if you have a lefty throw at you, it looks like you're in a different reality. Like it's so awkward.
Thank you. That's what I told Steve. I said, come on, man.
It's the most awkward thing, especially like as a corner, like breaking on it. I'm like,
and then it hits you, and it feels like it. Yeah. Unless you're ready for it, you had to have your hands moving.
It's the worst like football experience a player could have.
Brian, we might have the longest answer to one of these files.
Wait. All I know is your quarterbacks were Jim McMahon, Mark Wilson, and Steve Young. You won the lottery.
You can't miss.
That's awesome. All right, that's good.
Humility. That was long. We got like 10 seconds left. Number 5, last one. Favorite BYU moment?
Could be anything.
Favorite BYU moment? Watching Robbie Bosco throw that pass for what ended up being a national championship, and feeling like, hey, all these sequential years before that built up to that wonderful time.
Which they did.
They did.
So that means you're a part of that.
Yeah, it was fun.
You started it.
It's fun to be part. Well,
you started it by beating Texas A&M with a circus catch in 1979.
I closed my eyes, Dave.
Did you close your eyes?
No.
There's no way.
No, I didn't.
I still can't believe you got it. This is because it's not because you couldn't catch. It's like that those balls don't get caught.
So that was a crazy throw, but I'm fortunate, lucky, fun.
All right, you can find the Beyond the Game podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to be a guest coming up. Who else you got on the docket?
Well, I met with Trey Alexander and LaMason Waller. They're
Fantastic.
great young men. Joe Seminoff, maybe one of your teammates. Was Joe on the team fullback? We've got Jake Retzloff coming on pretty soon.
Awesome.
I want to meet AJ DeMonsa. Can you guys introduce me?
Yeah, we'll introduce you to him.
Okay.
He was great. He was here last week.
You got to be
Had a lot of
excited
fun
about
with
him.
All right, you can see that wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you so much for
Thank you, Dave.
coming over here.
And Brian, thank
hanging
you.
out with us. Mike Lacey, tight end for BYU. Let's see, when there's tight ends, there's Clay Brown, there's Gordon Hudson, there's Chad. You just go down the line. And you know what? Don't forget Mike Lacey in there. One of the biggest catches in the history of the program. So thank you again for being with us. Mike Lacey, 1975, and then 78 and 79 into 80, and then again the ACL injury. But hey, you know what? If you just make one catch, then make it that one.
Right.
Make it that one. And we're getting ready for our next guest on our all-star lineup tonight. Jeff Hansen was great talking about BYU recruiting. You can always watch that again at wiseguys.com. And then back in time with Mike Lacey when we were rolling out all those big catches. And we could have gone on and on and on. And we could have included the Andrew George and some of those others. But, man, there's no shortage of them. And then all of a sudden, the significant ones, you got to put him in there.
I really appreciate the story because, like I said, I wasn't even thought of yet. And, the way that you guys were going back and forth and breaking down almost minute to minute, he really brought us inside the helmet.
Yeah.
Not even the
like
huddle.
we're in the helmet.
Inside the helmet. Oh, that should be that's a good title or tagline for something.
Yeah.
I just want 10% with
Our
you,
next
whatever you do with
guest
that.
is the highest ranked recruit in BYU golf history, and the Cougars have had some sensational golfers, including Hall of Famer Johnny Miller. It's a pleasure to welcome to the Wise Guys Kihei Akina from Lone Peak High School, Utah County here, and here on the Wise Guys. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
How's your day been up to this point?
It's been pretty good.
Pretty good. What do you think of our lair here?
This is sweet. It's
Nice,
I like
huh?
all those school logos are there. That's cool.
Well, most of those you're going to have to beat on the golf course,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Almost everyone has a golf program, I think, in the Big 12. There might be a couple that don't. I know with baseball, there's just 14 of the 16 that play baseball.
Oh, there's two that
And
isn't.
softball, there's a few that don't.
Everyone has a golf program. Yep.
Everybody up there. How awesome is it to see this current BYU team dominate the Reno Regional and get ready for the NCAA championships?
It's awesome. They have a really good team. They're pretty deep with Peter Kim and Zach Jones, Cole Ponage, Simon Kwan. Really cool to see them win.
I was surprised only just because they've kind of moved along, but that first day they jumped on the top of the leaderboard and then they just kept going.
Yeah, they haven't done they haven't played great,
Right.
honestly, in the spring season, but cool to see them all play well, and hopefully they can make a run in the national championship.
Yeah,
next
now
week.
they're in the show. It's been since 1981. Carl Tucker was the coach. I was his paper boy way back when.
Really?
And they won the golf championship in 1981. And if they don't get it this year, they expect to get it in the coming seasons with you and the guys that they're bringing in. When you teed off last October at the Black Desert Championship, really making your PGA Tour debut, how different was that from any other round of golf you've played in your life when you're in the show, so to speak?
I mean, not too different.
Really?
Except for when I stood on the first tee on that first day, I was fine. Like it was honestly kind of normal. But then I put the tee in the ground. I stood over the ball and my legs just went to jelly. I couldn't feel my hands or couldn't feel anything, and I was like, "Oh crap!" Just make contact with the ball. Somehow I hit it down the fairway, but no, that was a really cool experience to be able to play that.
Did those feelings before you hit that tee shot tell you that you're in a different place now? That this isn't Riverside, this isn't Alpine, this is the PGA Tour?
No, for sure. There was a lot of people on that first tee. Seemed like hundreds were just gathered around that little first tee there. But yeah, definitely different.
When did it calm down for you?
After the contact? After first contact?
After the contact.
Just after one shot, or did it take a little bit?
Nuked it right down the fairway on that shot, but probably hole 3.
Really?
First couple holes were a little nervy, but on hole 3, the par 3, I made a really good swing, and that kind of just eased me into the day and played pretty solid the rest of the day.
Was it different for you having dominated the high school scene and the junior scene to all of a sudden be there with pros around you playing for real life and their jobs? And how did that experience fuel you to want more of it?
It's cool. Like you said, it's their jobs, and that's how they make a living. Luckily for me, I'm still in high school, and I'm just kind of having fun out there and trying to learn as much as I can. But yeah, and it's definitely different from junior golf and high school golf. I just try to learn as much as I could when I played with those guys.
Is it different because of the amount of tension and the crowd, or the competition? Do you feel like?
Both. I think just the fact that you're with all the best players in the world, you're competing against the best players in the world. And then, there's other factors like, the amount of people watching, what's at stake, all the money on the line, stuff like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I just tried to play the best that I could.
My coaches always told me at every single level, it's the same game. Just brighter lights, bigger stadium, and a little bit more on the line. But the game in between the lines are literally the same.
So wait a second. So Brian played defensive back at BYU. You go play Oklahoma at the Cowboy Stadium. Mm-hmm. There's like 95,000 fans there. Mm-hmm. Most of them are Oklahoma fans. Mm-hmm. And it was just the same in between the lines. So were you not out of your mind a little bit?
In the beginning when I first ran up the tunnel, I was trying my hardest not to be starstruck. I was like, oh my gosh, this is Oklahoma. Oh my God. We played in the Cowboy Stadium, and I walked in and I was like, wow, like this is an NFL stadium. As soon as I got first contact, I was everything emotionally kind of reset. So for you, like my coaches taught me, and I come to realize at every level. Did you feel that way after you were done? That it's just the same. It's the same game.
No, for sure. It's the exact same. You're trying to get a little white golf ball into the hole. It doesn't matter where you are or who's watching. The process is the same, and the goal is the same.
My problem is finding the ball after I hit it. It's not about getting it into the hole, at least initially. So, Kihei, if you were to write a short bio about yourself for the PGA Tour Media Guide, which you'll have to do here coming up anyway, how would you do it? Give us a paragraph of how you would describe you in your PGA Tour bio.
I think the main thing about me is I'm pretty humble. Humility is a big thing where I come from and part of my culture. I'm a big family guy. Faith is another big thing for me. I try to keep golf as something I do, and it's not who I am. Kind of the faith part is number one in my life. But yeah, just trying to have fun with what I do right now and trying to learn as much as possible.
Now write your bio just using five emojis.
5 emojis.
Which 5 would you choose?
Man, that's a good question.
That is a good question.
That was a good one.
I don't even know if I can think up 5
Okay,
emojis.
let's do three.
Laughing emoji. I'm pretty funny around my family. If you know me like that, then I'm kind of a little funny. So laughing emoji. I'd put the shaka emoji in there. Man, I don't know. Maybe the golf emoji, the little flag.
Yeah.
When
Nice.
AJ was here, we were talking about, and he's also a humble guy, super talented and family oriented guy, and and we were asking about him, and he said, I think I'm kind of funny. He goes, I might just be corny, but people seem to laugh at what I say. And that was him telling, hey, this. He said, if you judge me by how you watch me play, that is a horrible definition of who I really am. He goes, I play angry and focused and all that, but off the court, it's about my family and things that matter most. And interesting, the two of the biggest stars to sign at BYU are him and you guys are very similar that way.
Yeah, same thing. I'm quiet on the course. I'm always, trying to keep it even keel and trying to focus on my process. But off the course, I'm always with my family. I'm always joking around with my family and having fun.
Good. So you should be. Future BYU golfer Kihei Akina on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. There's a physical and mental aspect to this game of golf. So let's talk about where you're at physically. How far can you bomb it?
Depends where we're at.
Okay.
Here in Utah, 340.
340. We've seen Finau. I've seen Finau bomb it over at Riverside, and you can bomb it as far as him.
Not quite, but
340.
He's got a couple years on you. You can catch that.
Explain that in football terms with the quarterback throwing the ball.
Hitting a 340. Mm-hmm. What's that? Throwing it 90 yards in the air. That's a pretty good drive. What else? What else is in the physical aspects of the game? What are your strengths?
I like to think of myself as a good ball striker.
Yeah.
Good short iron player. I like to think of myself as a really consistent player, keeping everything consistent, keeping it out of the rough, keeping it in the fairway, minimizing mistakes, and keeping it simple.
On our live stream, Kihei Akina asks a question. Ask Kihei who his favorite sibling is.
Definitely not you.
I don't know if he was ready for that answer.
It's Kavika.
Does that switch based off of situations?
I was thinking about that earlier today. It actually does switch because I was in New York this past week with Kavika, my other brother.
At NYU, right?
Yep, for his graduation. And it was fun.
You got some bonding time.
He moved ahead. Sounds like he moved ahead in the standings.
He moved ahead last week, yeah.
When it comes to the mental aspect of the game, how do you keep it together?
That can be tough.
Yeah.
I don't know, just sticking to your process, sticking to your routine. And then for me, believing in my preparation. Preparation is always huge. And then, just believing in your work and going out and executing.
Where did you learn that? Is that primary? Is that preschool? Where did you learn that's allowed you to kind of master the mental part of golf? We saw that yesterday in the PGA Championship with John Rahm, right? The mental part of golf can shift so fast.
Yeah, golf's weird in that sense. Anything can really happen, but I think experience is probably the best thing for you. Just being in those situations in contention to win tournaments is really important. That's where you learn the most. And then just taking every I don't like failures, but taking them as learning experiences and moving on with those. Who
on the tour do you watch or emulate? Their style, the way they play, the way they handle pressure? Is there a guy a few years ago, everyone would say Tiger or Phil when they were in their prime? Who do you watch?
I really like Rory.
Yeah.
Tony is another big one that I'm pretty close with him.
He's more of a mentor, isn't he?
With him a few times. Yeah. He's one of the most chill guys ever. You'll see him on the courses just like this. So I try to emulate that.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that he's taught you?
Be yourself. No matter where you are, what you're doing, just be yourself.
Like that.
You dominated the state of Utah at Lone Peak High School. No shortage of suitors knocking on your door when it came time to picking a school to play for. What was it about BYU that won out in the end?
Yeah, a big thing was I wanted to surround myself with like-minded people and, people in the church that have the same beliefs as me. And I think when I surround myself with those people, it'll help build me and help build my testimony the Savior and help be a better person and get where I want to be in life. And then I also wanted to come in and build the program up. I wanted to compete for a national championship at BYU. And at BYU, you represent so much. You represent the church and you represent this great state of Utah. And it's really cool to be able to do that. And hopefully we can make a run next year.
I'm not a member of the church, but I still, since my time being here, and even now, feel that responsibility. I mean, I'm like, walk down the street, don't want to cuss because but I never really felt, I guess, the true weight because I wasn't truly connected to the faith. But I would see my teammates, some of them kind of struggle with that, but you seem to want to embrace it in a positive way.
Yeah, you're always trying to improve. And for me, I'm just trying to be an example. I'm just trying to spread my light and spread my beliefs and my testimony and, just be a good person and being a good example.
One of America's top golf recruits and future Cougar, Kihei Akina, is on the Wise Guys, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. It's fun to have the family on the live stream. We're glad that everyone is checking this out. I have read where you wrote, said something about Coach Bruce Brockbank, who was on the show not long ago, and his staff, about that they not only will help you develop your game, but prepare you for life as you play the game as a professional. Again, with tantalizing offers from all over the place, and BYU was solid with theirs. When it came to how you want to be in 10 or 15 years or 20 years as a human being, that was pretty heavy right now, wasn't it?
Absolutely. With Coach Brockbank and Coach Miller, I don't think you can find two better men in this entire world. They're the nicest guys ever, and yeah, like you said, I think I'll be grow to be a really good man under them, not only on the golf course but in life too.
Yeah, that's good. Athletic Director Brian Santiago said at his news conference last week, there's never been a better time to be a student athlete at BYU. When you look at the other sports and the kids they're bringing in, how eager are you to get to campus and become a BYU student athlete?
Oh, I've been itching to go to campus for the last year and a half probably. But yeah, like you said, BYU is on the rise for sure. It's really cool to see everything that's building up with BYU. And every sport, honestly, it's really cool to see. And I'm excited to be a part of it.
And to be a big part of it because, you look and see the stars that football's added and the stars that women's volleyball's added and the stars that basketball's added. You're one of the stars that golf's added. And you're in that group, and so some expectation comes in with it too, and that's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, BYU golf has had a lot of legends come through.
Yeah,
Mike Weir, Bobby Clampett, Mike Reed,
the whole Miller clan.
All the Millers. I could go on and on, but there's legends.
What do you want to? Do you know what you want to study yet?
I don't yet. We'll see.
And that's why we go, right? I would tell my kids, you don't have to have it figured out when you go there to figure it out. There'll be we're going to have the American Heritage professors coming on here in a couple of weeks because they get a bad rap on their class. And they go, how about we come on this show, explain to everyone what American Heritage is like. And
that's a horrible class.
So we're going to do it. We're going to have two professors here.
That's a horrible class. They still have that class?
Yes, they do.
That's mean. That's just... Look, I'll give you a little bit.
They'd like you to come back through, is what they'd like.
I ain't even go in the first place.
Yeah.
I don't know how I passed.
It's a different time.
I'll give you some advice because I went to junior college. So I just got my associates to graduate and come play D1. And they helped me out a lot because I saw a lot of my teammates, they would pick a major, and they didn't really know yet, but they picked a major earlier on, and so they would take a couple of classes in their major, like freshman and sophomore year, then decide they want to switch, and because of that, they wasted time, right? Like they took maybe 4 or 5 classes that didn't really count towards anything. So I always give freshmen coming in advice, which is take your internships, your freshman and your sophomore year to get real world experience to figure out what you want to do. Then you declare for your major. For your junior year, going into your junior year, then all you have to do is do your major classes.
Noted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to say take your time and shoot under par. That's all. Take your time with school and just let it be. It'll be a great experience for you. And if you're shooting under par, you'll be happy about it, right?
That's right.
Okay, this is where we're not going to necessarily rank your siblings, but we want to talk to you about them. Okay. You got, and I'll try to get these names right. Kiani is your older sister, played rugby at Harvard.
Yep. Okay,
and then Keanu, who played golf at BYU. We've heard from him already tonight. Kavika, your older brother, played basketball at NYU, and you were just at his graduation in Manhattan, right? Right in the heart of it all. And then you're number 4, and then there's 3 after you. What do the other 3 like to do?
So the one right under me, Keely, she's a junior in high school. She plays rugby right now. And then the 2 little babies, we call them babies, but one of them is 9 and the other one just turned 7.
Yeah, do they appreciate being called babies at 9 and 7?
Yeah, they're the babies of the family.
Those are babies.
Whether they like it or not. So,
so what is that? Is that soccer, coach pitch? What do they like to do?
Yeah, they do soccer, dance, kind of everything that little girls do.
Your guys' name, Dad. I love the aesthetics with the names. Some sound a little bit similar. What happens in the house? That's for you, I guess. What happens in the house when you call one of them, and do they get mixed up? Do they get mixed up? Do you get one that comes in and they're like, "No, I meant." Does that happen a lot?
It takes about 3 names before I get the right one.
That's just natural being a dad. I'm pretty sure especially if you're mad or whatever. Say 5 names before you get to the one you really. Well, how much fun is it to be in a family that plays together?
It's a lot of fun. Especially my older siblings. All 3 of them have been a really good example to me and to my younger siblings. But yeah, it's really cool that they all played sports. We're a pretty big athletic family. I always say that the brains of the family skipped over me. My 3 olders were all pretty smart. All went to great schools, and I guess it just skipped over me.
Well, look, you got to be pretty smart to get in where you are, and you've got to be a fantastic golfer to get on the team that you're at. So don't undersell yourself on that one. This is first of all, this is a game that requires great intelligence, and a school that requires it and challenges it, and you fit right in here. So, hey, NYU is NYU. It's not BYU, right?
No, I try to take school seriously. A couple days ago, I got Athlete of the Year at Lone Peak, and I got home today with my parents, and I was like, man, I'd honestly rather get Scholar of the Year or Student of the Year instead of Athlete of the Year.
BYU is hard. I had a teammate in Canada when I played in the CFL that went to Stanford, and he said that for whatever reason, BYU doesn't get the same accolades academic-wise as those top-tier schools. But he said he had a couple of professors that taught at both, and they said they were almost identical, especially when you have classes like American Heritage.
Yeah. Well, look, Bilo, Blaine, myself, we all graduated from BYU, so it's totally possible. We're not rocket scientists, but I think it's going to be awesome. What are your summer plans?
I'll be pretty busy traveling the country, playing in golf tournaments. I'll play in most of the Elite Amateur Golf Series tournaments.
A number of those are on the Golf Channel, aren't they? TV-wise, does the Golf Channel pick up some of those?
I think a couple of them are on TV. Not sure.
Which courses are you hoping to play
this summer?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got some cool ones lined up. I'm going to. Hopefully I play at Oakmont. I've got the U.S. Open sectional qualifier coming up soon. Nice. So that'll be cool. I've got Sunny Hana. That's a really cool course. The one at Northeast, I think it's called Wanamoiset. I've never been there, but heard great things about that course. The Blessings, it's in Arkansas. That's another good one. But yeah, I mean, there's not really bad courses at these tournaments.
Oh, that's awesome. When do you report for BYU? In August? End of August?
End of August, I think, yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, let's hit you up. 5 questions for Kihei, presented by StrategySquare.co. Bilo, you ready?
And we can't make it fast, right? Because in golf, you don't really. So we could slow it down some.
Yeah, if we can slow it down.
Okay.
Some ambience.
Favorite sports movie?
Happy Gilmore is the one that comes to mind.
All right. It's a good one.
Is that
Not a shock. Not a shock that it's golf related.
That's right. It makes sense.
That's pretty good.
Oh, wait, number 2's coming out, right?
Yeah, I think it is this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be something.
Favorite singer or band?
Drake, for sure.
Drake.
Oh.
You Kendrick fan?
I'm judging you. I don't judge. I just pray, but I'm judging you. I am. Look, I used to be a Drake fan, and then I got converted. So
To what?
what did you? You're Drake. Oh, Kendrick. Yeah. See. Mm-hmm. It's the younger generation. I'm just
I feel like
playing.
the younger generation is with Kendrick.
You know what? You're right. You're right on that. You are right on that, because I grew up on Drake. Like, Drake was in our headphones, warming up. So
2016 Drake was
yeah.
good.
Oh, I was 2000, 2008, 2009 Heartbreak Drake first mixtape.
Yep. I think I was barely born.
Oh man, I'm old. Oh, now I know how you feel when I say.
Yeah, Drake was one of my neighbors. I don't even know which Drake you're talking about.
Okay, number 3, favorite breakfast cereal.
Frosted Flakes
That's a good one.
It's an American
That is good.
classic right there.
with fresh strawberries.
With strawberries. Okay.
Then you get strawberry milk afterwards.
Nice.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Favorite golf course.
I'd say it's a tie between my home course in Hawaii, Turtle Bay, or Sage Valley.
Turtle Bay is nice, but is it ever not windy at Turtle Bay?
Very rarely.
Yeah,
Very
we've been
rarely.
over there a few times, and I thought, man, who's playing golf in this? But there's always guys out there.
That's what makes it good, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Get you ready for the British Open, I guess, over there at Turtle Bay. What do you think of Riverside here?
It's pretty good. It's
Yeah.
probably the best in Utah Valley.
I think you're right. I
You
like
should
that
you
one.
should you should get an NIL deal for saying that. I'm sorry.
Stay focused,
My
Philo.
CTE covers CTE.
All right, number 5.
Favorite thing about your parents, Alan and Leanne.
Favorite thing about them is that they put us, the kids, over themselves. Each and every day, they're like, my mom is always up in the morning making breakfast for us. She's always making sure that we have food to eat, and she's making sure that all of our laundry is done, all that stuff. And then our dad is always taking care of us, always watching out for us, and always supporting us.
It helps to create a team, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you're joining a team at BYU, but you come from one that has prepared you to be in this one.
Yep, for sure.
And you get to be the younger brother, and you get to be the older brother. So you're right in the middle of, you're the best of both worlds, right? You got to be the example and then have some to follow.
Yep.
Even if Keanu has slipped in the family rankings to number 2, live right here on the Wise Guys, so you can patch that up with him.
Keanu, good job today. he played in the Monday qualifier in Corn Ferry Monday today.
Is that right?
He shot 7 under and was in a playoff to make it into the tournament and just barely lost. So
7 under.
Good
That's
job,
awesome.
Keanu.
Good job. Good playing. Hey, congratulations on your choice to come to BYU. We look forward to being a part of your career through the whole thing, and we'll look for you at Riverside over there as you're banging around with Finau and the guys when they come through. But I know Coach Brockbank, when we asked him to describe you, he just said that the potential for so many great things is right here. So nice job.
Thank you.
Good to have that. And is that a Royals hat? That would be the first Kansas City Royals hat to ever be on this show.
Yep, this is a Kansas City Royals hat.
What's the loyalty to them? As a Cubs fan, I'm just curious.
There is no loyalty. I was in Kansas City last week, and me and Carson Lundell and my brother, we went to the
game?
baseball game, yeah, and I just got a hat. So
well, nice. Well, Andy Reid works just across the street, right over there,
BYU
right?
guy
With the Chiefs. A lot of big BYU guys, and you're one of them. So thank you for being here, and best of luck, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, hit him up, get free tickets, get some free swag.
That's right. Kihei Akina coming to BYU, one of the top golf recruits in the country, and the highest rated recruit in the history of BYU. And that's big time. We've had AJ, and then we had Kihei in back-to-back weeks, and you'll be hard-pressed to find two athletes with greater expectations or more talent than these two.
I like him.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thanks, Alan. Thanks for coming. Great to have Alan here, his dad, with us as well, and the live stream responding. How about that? Well, there's some talented young men and young women at BYU.
It is, man, the position that I'm in here right now, like being a part of the media. I pinch myself because
you're part of it.
Yeah, I was talking to my mom the other day about it. I was like, Ma, I don't deserve this. And she was like,
well, you might be right, but that doesn't mean you're not getting it.
She pretty much said all those words, but she just said, God, blesses who He chooses to bless. And my mom would always tell me that, like, coming here to BYU was always going to be bigger than football. She always said that before I stepped on the field. And to see that kind of playing out is, especially right now, because we've taken our hits. We've taken our lumps. We've been in the wilderness for 39 and a half years. Now it's about to be 40. Now we're about to go. Now we're about to be out.
What I love
now we're about to be out.
That I noticed with AJ and noticed with Kihei is there's a core.
Yeah,
there's a core of goodness in them, and they've got talent through the roof. More than most in the country in their respective sports. But there's a core that keeps them humble and focused, and it's family, and their loyalty to their family. It's faith, and the understanding, even at their young age. And I think they're about the same age, but even at their young age, it's that this is what I do. This is not who I am, and I think that's the biggest thing to overcome for young athletes, because it's to a lot of them, it is what they are. It's their identity, and so the highs and lows are great and painful.
Yeah.
But if you can have that focus of, this is what I do, this is not what I am. My self-worth is not dependent on whether or not I make a 15-foot putt. Then you can get through life.
Or, I mean, and that's rooted in faith, right? Like we're taught that. And I think you could see the difference between a lot of athletes nowadays, especially with the opportunities that they have financially, and kind of pressure that they feel from like just material things. You can see how easy and how wrapped up they can be in going just for the next deal, right? And just going from school to school to school.
Yeah, and they do it all the time. But some don't.
Time. No.
Some go, I want this for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here they come in, and Kihei is one of those.
Yeah. And a lot of our student athletes are, and I think this is a really, really cool message to send to the I don't want to say I guess the nation, right? It's a pretty cool message to send to college athletes that have, like, money isn't everything. I care about family. I care about what's gonna where my life is gonna be in the next 15 years outside of the sport that I play.
Keanu, Kihei's older brother, says, I'll set it straight when I get home. Great show, guys. Thank you, Keanu, and congratulations on your play today. That's outstanding. Sylvia says, I'd love to see Steve Young as a guest on Wise Guys. Sylvia, we'll get Steve back on the show, but he's been on the show, and you can find that at wiseguys.com. Steve and Vaisika Hema were on together, and that was an awesome Wise Guys Night. Let's get to some campus notes, and we'll get you out of here on this Monday. It's been another awesome show. It's great to have the live stream so active and have everyone listening on our podcast and on our YouTube channel, our Twitch channel, our Facebook channel, and wiseguys.com. Speaking of golf, as we mentioned, BYU won the Reno Regional. They qualify for the NCAA championships. Those are coming up Friday through Wednesday in Carlsbad, California. I believe BYU starts on Thursday because they don't play on Sunday, so they move their final round day up. That's just how they do it. Cougars are seeking their first national title in men's golf since 1981. Talk about a team with momentum. They were awesome in Reno, and we wish them the best in the NCAA championships.
Track and field Big 12 championships. BYU men and women both take second place behind Texas Tech. Texas Tech's been tough all year long, and they're ranked ahead of BYU. James Corrigan wins 2 individual Big 12 titles, steeplechase, back-to-back championship, and 500 meters. 5,000 meters. 5,000.
He was fantastic. Tremendous BYU career.
How much is 5,000?
5,000 meters?
Yeah, how many laps is that?
I don't know how many laps. That's a lot. It's more than 500.
Ben Barton, decathlon champion. Megan Hunter is the 800-meter champion. And Lexi Holiday Lowry, 5,000-meter championship.
Those are individual Big 12 champions.
And then up next, NCAA West preliminary. That's May 28th to 29th. And that's at College Station, Texas.
And then after that's the NCAA championships, and BYU's going to take a big team there with a chance to continue. They've been ranked, the men and women, in the top 6 going into the Big 12 championships nationally. And Texas Tech has been tough and ranked a little ahead of them, and they just edged them for the men's and women's titles. Baseball's 27-26, 10-20 in the Big 12. They took 2 out of 3 against Texas Tech. It was an exciting weekend over at Miller Park. We had fireworks on Friday night after a dramatic 6-5 win to clinch the 12th and final playoff spot for the Big 12 tournament. So it starts on Wednesday. Listen to this. It's BYU against Arizona State Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Mountain Time on ESPN Plus and BYU Radio. The Sun Devils swept the Cougars in the regular season, but they played in Tempe at 7:30 p.m. This is the other side of the day, and it's not in Tempe. The winner will play Arizona at 8 a.m. Mountain Time on Thursday. This is interesting because for the Sun Devils, their body clock, it'll be 7 a.m. that they'll be playing BYU in the first round of the Big 12 tournament. Congratulations for fighting so hard to get in, and then you're playing at 8 a.m.
Yeah, what's wrong with
they're playing 4 games a day at Globe Life Field, and so they start early, and they're going to finish late. I've got an article at Deseret.com how the Cougars need to bring a Captain Crunch mentality to their breakfast bash on Wednesday morning. Nice. And we wish them the best. Next year, the Big 12 championships are going to move over to Surprise Stadium in Surprise, Arizona. That's the spring training home of the Rangers and the Royals. Globe Life Field is the home of the Rangers. They're going to move it to the spring training facility in Surprise, Arizona. Seats 11,000. It'll be nice.
That's the name of it?
Yeah, Surprise Stadium.
At first I thought it read
in the town of Surprise, Arizona.
I'm like, shouldn't they know?
When you live in Surprise, every day is a surprise.
Shouldn't they know what stadium?
12 and a half laps is 5,000 meters. Thank you, Sylvia. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Sylvia.
On this day, let's roll out of here. May 19th. On this day, these things happened.
1896, first automobile made by Carl Benz arrives in the Netherlands.
Carl Benz of Mercedes-Benz. 1926 on this day, NBC is founded by the Radio Corporation of America, RCA, founds NBC on this day in 1926.
On this day, 1935, NFL adopts an annual college draft to begin the following year.
How about that? We just had the draft not long ago. 1962, on this day, Marilyn Monroe sings Happy Birthday to President Kennedy at Madison Square Garden. That's a famous clip.
Now, I did see that highlight. On this day, 1999, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is released in theaters.
Yeah, a lot of folks didn't like that. It was all right.
Why?
A couple of characters in there were obnoxious. But 2018, on this day, Prince Harry marries Meghan Markle.
On this day, 2022, Mercedes SLR Coupe sells for $142 million, world's most expensive car.
That went down on this day.
That's crazy.
In 2022.
You know how many mouths that could have fed people? People could have some food.
May 19th birthdays, 1918, Florence Chadwick, first woman to swim the English Channel in both directions. Swam it and swam it back.
1920. That's a question off here. 1925. Malcolm X.
1932. Bill Fitch, Celtics head coach, won the '81 NBA championship.
1945. Pete Townshend. The Who.
He was the guitarist for the Who. 1946. Andre the Giant.
The Who
was born.
Who?
Yeah, the Who.
Who?
Yeah, right. May 19th deaths. 1864. Nathaniel Hawthorne, the author of The Scarlet Letter.
1994, Jacqueline Kennedy. What?
Onassis. Yeah.
Oh,
She
Onassis.
died on this day in 94. The Wise Guy's inspirational quote of the week comes from George Lucas, movie producer, the creator of Star Wars. And as we mentioned, on this day in 1999, Episode 1 was released, The Phantom Menace. And this is what George Lucas said about movies.
If the boy and the girl walk off into the sunset hand in hand in the last scene, it adds $10 million to the box office.
There you go. He would know. So maybe that's why in the last scene, that's what we see when George Lucas makes movies. Our thanks to recruiting guru Jeff Hansen, former Cougar football game changer Mike Lacey, and BYU golf commit Kihei Akina for a fantastic show here tonight. Next week on Memorial Day, we'll break down the starters on the BYU football team. We'll visit with Brady Plus president and BYU grad Travis Brady.
I'm tuning in for that show.
Yeah, you should. It's going to be good.
I normally do.
Yeah.
But, I've been slipping the last, I got a new job. So, I have my baby.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And a new job?
Yeah.
This is new you.
Hey, and so guess what day he was born?
What day?
Your birthday.
April 25th?
Yep. At 1 o'clock.
Did you name him Dave?
I was trying to do middle name, but
All right, I appreciate
Joanna
it.
said no,
It's
so.
the thought that counts. Congrats to both of you. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And your new job, and the fact that we get you here on the Wise Guys, and we'll be kicking off game day here before you know it.
Right.
Which is awesome. Just a reminder as we leave you for a week, we want you to become a Wise Guy or girl for a day, and come on the show. Not just with a note on the stream. I mean, actually coming on the show, talking about your BYU memories. We want you to follow us on Instagram and X at Wise Guys. Drop a teaser of your favorite BYU memory in the comments. Tag a friend, and then share your post to your stories, which will give you an extra entry. And then on June 1st, Chantal will tell us who the winner is. She's with Strategy Square. And then we'll reach out to you and announce it on Monday, June 2nd. And schedule you to appear on the show.
And there's a couple times where we've had guests, right, like fans on to get their experience.
Gosh, we have on occasion.
Yeah.
But this is like you're an actual Wise Guy for a day.
Or a
girl
you're a host.
for a day.
You're a host.
Well, you got to be in it. We won't put that kind of heat on them.
So they're a host.
But we want them to come on and look into the camera and say, "Here's why I this or why I like that."
They're a host.
It'll be fun. Hey, and a special shout out to our friends and colleagues over at BYU TV as Sports Nation served up its 3,000th episode today. You and I have been a part of a lot of those. The guys will be back for 3001 tomorrow morning. So catch BYU Sports Nation. That's 10 Mountain Time, noon Eastern on BYU TV and BYU Radio. Michael Miner, the mastermind behind the creation of BYU Sports Nation, and it's still rolling now. Yeah. 3,000 episodes old.
Crazy.
That's cool.
Crazy. Good for them.
Bilo, thanks for being with us tonight. As always.
Anytime.
It's good to have you as one of the Wise Guys.
I'm like 20 for 21 now. I got that one time I couldn't make it because I ate food.
because of the whole reaction to the gluten. And tonight, Bilo set the Wise Guys record for the longest question ever asked.
Back to back, too.
I broke
it in the same night.
And Jeff Hansen said he felt happy to be a part of it. So that's what happened tonight. I'll see you this week in the Deseret News. Blaine's back next week, too. Remind you, Wise Guys is presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. Have an awesome week, everybody. We'll see you soon.